Most guys in their 20s and 30s are probably not going to like what I'm about to say. You tell yourself, if I just find the right job, I'm finally going to feel okay. Like my life is on track. So you change jobs and keep changing jobs. But what if the problem isn't your job? What if the problem is easier to solve than job hopping? In fact, I'm going to be showing you a study that shows most millennials and Gen Z job hop a lot. On paper, this might look agile, but I imagine a lot of you still feel anxious and restless and even wondering, is all this worth it? I'm here with Garrett and AJ, and we've all seen this before. You can change jobs, titles, bosses, even cities, and you still wake up with the same person in the mirror, you. In this podcast, we're going to say the deepest fear out loud. Maybe the answer isn't out there in the next job offer. Maybe the answer is in here, in who you actually are, the kind of man God designed you to be from the beginning. If that stings a little, hang with us, because this is actually good news we're going to get into, because you don't have to find the perfect job. You just have to find the true you, which is a lot more hopeful than grind harder and hope it works out. So Garrett and AJ, let's just jump right into this. What if the job isn't the problem and it's really inside you?
Yeah, honestly, that does sting a little bit. That's hard to hear, but I think there's a lot of truth in that. For me personally, the job hopping and the looking around, yeah, I mean, it's looking for something in these externals that just really isn't going to be found there in the job, the position, the status, title, people I'm working with, whatever it is. It's an internal thing that I need to find.
Yeah, and it's not what you want to hear. It'd be a lot easier if just everything around you changed, but then you start thinking, oh, maybe if I change the path, right? If I go this direction instead of the direction I've been on, things will be better. That path has way better external factors, whatever it is, work-life balance or roles and responsibilities, organization structure. But at the end of the day, all of that stuff could change again. Like work changes. It's always a dynamic environment. So it might look good at first, but then 2 months later, it's way different.
Yeah, I've got a friend, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but he's definitely felt like, gee, I'm on the wrong path. Or his other big fear is like, I'm trapped in this job and it's really not the right one. And honestly, where we're going with all of this, guys, is, well, if you know yourself, then that doesn't matter. And it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of men, and I've caught myself doing this, where we kind of identify with our work. It's what we do most of the day, most of the week. And so it's hard to not embrace that as, oh, I'm an associate, or, oh, I'm a coordinator, like taking on that identity.
Okay, so let's get into the perfect job lie and what the numbers actually expose about that. So a major report found that Gen Z averages 1.1 years per job in their early career. So this is like 5 years. And millennials about 1.8 years. This isn't a problem. This is a pattern. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a lot of jobs. I bet it feels longer when you're in those jobs, get into this job, and you're excited about it and you have all these high hopes for it, and it kind of just falls flat. You start looking out on the horizon again.
Yeah, and it lines up very well with my experience and what I know from my friends and people I've went to school with. And it really just kind of feels like we're all playing this game of like musical chairs, but not all the chairs are the same. Some are really hard, some are like couches and very comfortable. And, the music stops playing, you sit in the hard chair and you're like, oh, shoot, I can't wait till the music plays again. I'm going to get that couch right next to me. And then you get in the couch and you're like, oh, this is so comfortable. And then the next time the music plays, you stand up and your like muscles have atrophied because you were so comfortable just reclining in the couch. You kind of have lost sense of who you are and what you're actually capable of.
Yeah, I've got a friend who he just took his 6th job in 10 years. Okay, so I said that averages a job every 1.4 years, and he looked at me kind of like, well, I go, actually, that's not fair because you've only been in the new job a couple of weeks, but. And he's a millennial, and actually, if you do the statistics pretty right, he's like right on the numbers, 1.8 years. And there's been different reasons for that. he's like offered a better job or that sort of thing. But this feeling stuck in a job is really true. And one of the things that I think we suffer from is like here in Texas, we say, you know, the grass is always greener in the other pasture because we still have ranch land and stuff like that. But when you get into the other pasture, it turns out the grass wasn't as green as you thought it was. I don't know if that connects or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, that's like the looking out on the horizon thing, like I mentioned, right? Like you're looking over here, and from where you are, that grass looks really green. But of course, standing on top of it, looking down on it, you see all the yellow and bare spots and the dirt and everything that's wrong with it, and that gets pretty discouraging after a while.
Yeah. And look, I know guys who are in their 20s and 30s and they're staying years in their job already. Okay. So they're beating these statistics. All right. So these are averages and we're kind of lumping stuff together, but it does represent a problem. And the problem is what's going on? Why is everyone so anxious and worried? And right now the job market is tough. You know, and so it's like now you're even feeling more trapped because you put out your resumes and all of that's just exhausting.
Yeah, and it's just like there's this frustrating work culture where you get into a new job, the new car smell wears off, and you're like, oh man, this is just as bad as the old job. And then once the work is frustrating, now you think all of life is frustrating and that something more ideal must be out there. But then you start putting your resumes out and you didn't write your resume right. So the AI screeners are just taking you out and you're not hearing back from anybody. And now you feel trapped and frustrated and you just seem like you've kind of lost the plot of your life. You've lost, where is my story going?
You're kind of bringing up work-life balance. Okay, I'm just going to say it. This is the truth about work-life balance. It's a lie. This is all about identity, not about work-life balance. Because most men, they don't shut off. Okay. The real issue is we still have those conversations in our head. We're still arguing with our boss, you know, in the middle of the night. Okay. Right. I mean, who doesn't do that? And I see jobs. So what we think is like, oh, if I go get a real job and I'm not an entrepreneur, because all three of us are very entrepreneurial. So it's like I'll have a steady income and everything will be hunky-dory. And, you know, AJ's working for big tech and it'll be wonderful. And he's bored to tears. And all these self-worth issues start happening because they don't value him. So let's get into this work-life balance for men and the mental carryover and feeling guilty at home because I'm thinking about work and all that kind of stuff and thinking, oh, it'd be easier if I just had a real job if I'm an entrepreneur. And if you have a real job, quote unquote, you're thinking, oh, if I was an entrepreneur, I could control my own schedule. So look, it's always greener in the other pasture.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said. It's a lie, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you don't get to control your own. I mean, you do in a sense, but then at the end of the day, the buck stops at you. You're accountable and responsible for everything, and things take time. So you either can do them or not do them. Is what it comes down to there. Mm-hmm. And that feeling guilty at home, George, and inadequate at work. You start feeling inadequate at work, and then you start feeling inadequate at home, and you get angry, and because you don't want to lash out at work and get fired, you know, you'll get angry at, you know, your wife or your girlfriend or your friends because they did or said one little thing. And in reality of all the things you're angry about, that's probably like number 30, 40, 50 on the list. But you're going to hammer home on that one thing because you need to get this pent up anger out of you. It's just this fusion, your work and yourself start to fuse. And where it's becomes your job starts to run your life. And that's just what you're like, oh, I guess this is what being an adult is. Monday through Friday, every week is going to suck.
Yeah, I really relate to that, AJ. I can recall so many times that I've been just trying to have dinner with my wife and she's talking about something and I'm still having a conversation in my head about something, about some work thing, or like it's just some conversation with a boss where it's like, man, like why did I just let him say that? Like why didn't I say this? Or I should have brought this up. or something. That would have been a zinger, or it's just something, and it's like you said, it's that fusion of ourselves with our work. And to me, it comes back to, again, guys, like, this is why we made this free resource that we're offering to you to save you from this pain of this fusion of yourself and your work. And literally the first thing in this free resource is you draw a line, and it's what I do and who I am. And you start to separate those things, because I've tried the work-life balance thing. I've tried to create a prettier calendar for myself. I've tried to create this space on this calendar where it's like work, life, and is this in balance? Yeah, but the problem is, like you guys are saying, if yourself is fused with your work, it doesn't matter how pretty your calendar is. There's no work-life balance in that kind of thing. The issue comes back to you and who you are and how tied up your identity is to your work.
So one of the things that I operate on, and discovered this as an entrepreneur, was faith. And I think all entrepreneurs have faith. They believe in themselves. They believe in something. Okay. I chose to begin to not believe so much in myself, but believe in God and trust God, and actually have a faith walk that, look, because I'm thinking, if I just work for a big corporation, then the paycheck comes every 2 weeks, like AJ just said, but it's killing my soul. It's not who I am. It's not who I'm meant to be. And I think that is the core to figuring out, where am I supposed to be? Who am I supposed to be working for? Maybe it's myself. Maybe it's some mid-sized company, big company, doesn't really matter. But you start to figure out my identity. But then there's a whole nother thing, and that is, where does work fit into our life? I mean, because for men, we have this weird thing, and I go, who are you? And you tell me your name. The second thing most men say is what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Men, what you do is not who you are, even if you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Your job isn't that defining. Your whole life is who you are. This is why you don't need a different job. You need a different man in the job. And I'm talking about you. So here's the deal. God had a specific kind of man in mind when he made you. We are all unique. We could have the exact same education, desires, goals, whatever you want to call it. You're still going to be unique. No one else is going to do it like you. No one else has the combination of personality, dreams, passions that you do. So what I'm wondering is, if real change is from the inside out, and how do we do this if you're not clever enough to do it on your own, to reconstruct your own soul, let's say? That's pretty big.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I'm not strong enough or clever enough to reconstruct my own soul. My cleverness kind of ends and begins at, I just wish the world around me would change. It'd be so much easier if just all of these external factors, I'm just going to pray and say, God, it's in your control. Change all of these people, change all of these systems, change all of these things around me, and then I will be better. It's just, kind of looking outward to solve an internal issue, to solve an internal struggle that you're going through, and just blaming it. You're just deflecting. It's not me, it's everything else. If everything else was better, I'd be better.
Yeah, the key here is, it's not about a stronger resume, because a resume just kicks the door open. What you need is a truer identity, and the truer you know who you are, the more confidence you bring. And there's this also weird thing of, like, all of the crap you have to deal with doesn't penetrate as much. Mm-hmm. Because you know who you are. So when your boss does some bonehead thing, you're going like, that's not my identity.
Right.
So you don't become Teflon, okay, but you become more resilient and you bounce back faster. So, not trying to get all spiritual on you here, but ask God to help you. Reveal to me who you intend me to be. if you just pray something simple, go do this 10-minute exercise, boom, you're going to get some insights. I promise you, there's going to be a word, there's going to be a descriptor that pops in your head that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. Okay. So give that a try. So let's get into when the job really punches you back. Okay. So like, you get demoted. I know we've got a story on that. We've got bad bosses. Your ego gets in the way. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens on the job and it beats us up. What do we do with that?
Like I was saying just a second ago, there's just this deep frustration that sets in, whether it's, bad management or just overall leadership at the company is weak and directionless and poor at communicating. There's all this instability and what feels just unfair. It's like, why can't everybody just operate the way I want them to operate? Why can't this all just be a harmonious situation? But it just feels like the job just keeps on attacking your identity. And the more unfairness you put up with, you start to feel weaker as a man, where you're like, oh man, I just keep on taking these hits and I don't have a voice to claw back because I'm not going to get fired. I'm not going to go start submitting 1,000 applications to get one interview.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there, AJ, when you said you start to feel like it's about me. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many of us go, we have a bad boss, we have a criticism, we have a demotion, we have something bad happen, and we go, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. And so, but we don't really, and look, as men, we're not really introspective by nature. Okay. So we kind of resist looking at ourselves. And so we want to blame them, which it's real easy to do. And these bosses, holy smokes, we can throw rocks at them all day long. Well, we don't do it to their face. We do it when we get home with our buddies, our wife, whatever, girlfriend. And we just kind of go, all right, look, we don't like that. Because what's really going on below the surface, I think it's happened for me countless times, is what's wrong with me? Why can't I get this right? Mm-hmm. Can you guys relate?
Oh, yeah. For me, so much of my identity of who I am gets wrapped up in what I do. And so when things don't go well, it's always like such a punch to the gut. It's like an F on my identity, and that's why just by separating who I am and what I do can bring such relief.
And this fear sets in of, maybe I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. Like I know from, the big tech experience, I was in a coordinator role kind of outside of what I wanted to do. I was like, maybe I'm not good enough to get into one of the operations or the finance teams that I was aiming to kind of network and move myself into. Or even now where I'm at a much smaller company, there's days where I'm like, oh man, maybe I'm not good enough to make this, to help contribute to the long-term success of this. And then we'll have good days and I'll be like, oh man, we're the next big thing. I'm the next big thing. And all of that is like, it's dangerous because now I'm putting my identity and my self-worth in what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis rather than who God created me to be.
This brings up something interesting, typecasting. I think we get just like, certain actors, they appear on a sitcom. And so we always think they're a comedy and then they do a drama. And we're like, wait a minute, that guy's a funny guy. What's he doing in this drama? Because we've typecasted that character, that actor. Right. And so the same thing happens. You got typecast at big corp as doing this kind of job. So when you go, I want to go do the finance stuff, they're going like, well, you're not that. You do this other job, but they don't know who you are. I for decades did outsource CFO work. I remember early on, I show up and this guy to the owner and he's on the phone talking. He goes, oh, I got to go. My computer guy's here. And I'm looking at him like, your computer guy? Well, why would you say I'm your computer guy? He goes, well, you have a computer, and I'm like, really? You don't? And so what I learned was you have to tell people who you are and what you do. You need to brand yourself. Okay. And this gets into identity. And the thing that I want to get to, though, first, before we get more into that, is, are you running from your job or are you running from yourself? AJ, you've had a little experience with this in your history of jobs, where you received a call from an out of town job offer out of the blue. It was kind of a referral. Someone knew of you, that kind of thing. And so there's a couple of things going on there with, okay, so that's taking you out of a current situation that you might have been in to where it'd be a brand new situation. But there's I got a call.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
like, somebody wants me.
Yeah, that's the exact ego boost I'm talking about, when putting identity in work, and it's like, oh man, maybe I'm stuck here. Oh, but now they want me over here. Now I've got options. Now when I show up to work in that situation, it's like, I don't need to stay here. So maybe you need to, maybe I could start using this to influence these external factors I'm not liking. Or, a lot of my anger is a little bit, what's the word? Vengeful or antagonistic, where it's like, oh, you made me angry. I can't wait to make you angry back and leave. It creates this excitement and this boost of ego, where when you feel trapped, your ego starts to diminish and you start to feel small and weak. And this, now I'm feeling all like a puffer fish. I'm all strong.
A puffer fish.
They want me across the country.
Do you remember something else you said? You go, after you went through all of that, then you said, or maybe I could just leverage it for a pay raise.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I can get paid more to deal with the current BS.
And look, guys, we're just putting a whole lot of stuff on the table here, all right? Because sometimes we go like, well, if I got a pay raise, I'd feel better. Why? Why? Like your value goes up because you got more money? Is that who you are?
And if you think about it, like, actually practically, I get paid twice a month. Each of those days I see the money hit the account, and then I go right back to work, and it's right back into the same stuff. It doesn't even give you like a boost. It's like, okay, yep, it went through, and now I gotta go on the next one.
For me, I've been entrepreneurial. I've had more entrepreneurial endeavors than I've had jobs. My entrepreneurial experience doesn't seem to translate to a resume for what jobs are looking for very well. So when there's pressure, when there's financial pressure, and it's like, oh man, like maybe I gotta find something. I gotta do something else, or whatever it is, it doesn't ever seem like this entrepreneurial experience I have looks very good to any job on any level. It feels like they see it and they're like, oh, so you've just been unemployed, kind of just dicking around with your little hobbies or whatever. And it's like, no, I've built businesses, I've managed clients,
Yeah, I agree. There's a stigma that we kind of almost self-impose, where it's like, oh, I need to go get a real job. Like, wait a minute, what have I been doing for these other people? Because I would lead 2 or 3 companies at the same time. But somehow that didn't feel real to me, because I wasn't getting W-2 income. I was getting 1099. I think the whole world's moving toward me, because I would have clients like 5 to 7 years, still do. And, if everyone else is changing jobs every 2 years, I'm like,
So in the face of that stigma, George, why did you even do it?
Well, the secret is that I was working in the family business and ended up getting fired from the family business. And I made a vow, probably not a good vow, but I decided I was never going to let that happen again. So I thought, well, look, if I'm working for 3 companies at the same time, the odds of them all firing me on the same day are slim.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd always have a job. But I got to tell you guys, I learned a lot about who I am. That little quick 10-minute exercise that we've got, go download that, because that's going to really help you figure this out. When you know who you are, even a little bit, oh my gosh, you're so empowered.
Yeah, and in the face of that financial pressure too, because I've had times where I have a business going, there's some financial pressure. My family has a family business. too. And one time I went to my grandpa and I told him like, hey, I'm doing the best I can here. There's pressure, there's some financial strain. Could I come and do 3-4 hours a day with you just to kind of, take some of that pressure off? And so we talked about that. It was hilarious. He did that thing you see in the movies where you write an offer or like a number, a salary, whatever, on a piece of paper and slide it across. So he did that. I have no idea why, I think. So he writes a number down, slides it across, and I open it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this gonna be like a 6-figure, like, and it's like $11 an hour. I'm like, okay. It was literally like one per hour. He's like,
and you were making way more than that at the time, right?
yeah. Because my idea was like, this was when I had the obstacle fitness gym and I was competing on Ninja Warrior and all this kind of stuff. And the gym opened for the first class at 11:30, stayed open till 9. The family business opened at 8. So I was like, well, I'll go work like 8 to 11, then I'll go to the gym and take a little financial pressure off, and I'll get a little consistency. I think I might, not the real me, not who I really am, but some kind of, I guess, false part of me wanted some consistency. That was the big lure. So $11 an hour sounded pretty good to me as an entrepreneur who is, things were pretty inconsistent at the time. And I was cut right to this part. I should not have done that. I should not have gone into that family business. I would literally trade the measly, whatever, $11 an hour. I would pay them to not have to go there and deal with all that stuff. And it would have been so much better for me to just do like we're suggesting here, separate who I am with what I do, get some relief in that, and double down on bringing the strength of who I am to my own business than it would have been to go take $11 an hour in this crazy dynamic drama, chaotic stuff of this family business.
Yeah. So in a minute, we're going to flip all of this on you guys and ask one question about your next move that you guys never ask. But this doesn't mean you don't test a job before it owns your life or anything. And externals still matter. All right. So we're not saying culture, leadership, team, that's all important. Okay. But a better question to start asking yourself is, if you're looking at a job or you get a call like AJ did and you get flattered, oh, they want me, it's kind of like girlfriends, right? Like the prettiest girl in school says, oh, I want to hire you, I want you to be my boyfriend. And you're like, oh goodness. So all right, ask yourself this question: what will this girl turn me into? No, it's job. Sorry. What will this job turn me into? Have you guys ever asked yourself that question?
Not so directly. That's a really, really good question. And even George, I just want to react to something you were saying, like taking the power back from your bosses to tell you who you are. That felt huge to me. I mean, I already feel relief just from that. Because while you were talking in my head, I was like, why are they telling me who I am? Who are they to have the power to tell me? And yeah, why don't I ask God who I am? Get some clarity and direction there, because that'll take a lot of the sting out of the boneheaded things that these bosses say. And just personally, I've never had a boss that I would give that kind of power to tell me who I am.
Well, and to build on that, and what we're talking here on choosing the job, you're also choosing who you're going to become under that leadership.
Right.
That's one of the things I didn't ask myself super explicitly, who is this turning me into? But I could just kind of feel, when I was at that big tech company, just this complacency setting in. And then on the top of that, they did a return to office mandate, and having to go through that, what I called it was like a social experiment, basically. And actually seeing all of the people that I work with in person and seeing all of the other departments and teams, I was like, oh man, these are a lot of complacent, lifeless, boring people. And I don't want to be a complacent, lifeless, boring person. And then now I'm even trying to catch myself where, I'm working, small company where we all have to punch above our weight. So we're working, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And I'm trying to catch myself from being that busy man that we talked about in the last podcast, where I'm just too busy, overwhelmed, I can't focus on anything else. I got a job to do. We're building a great company. Like, I'm trying to keep that voice out of me and not take on that identity. Because at the end of the day, it's just my job. I am who I am and my job is what it is. But like you're saying, George, there is this creep that happens where it's like, oh, but AJ, you're very overwhelmed at work. So maybe you should start being overwhelmed as a person.
Mm-hmm. I can still remember this. It was like I was interviewing right out of school, and it was a huge oil company in Texas that I was interviewing with. And literally the people there, they were all older, like older generation, like 10 years, 15 years, they'd be retired. They go, you don't want to work here. Yeah. They told me this. And I was too young and dumb to know these kinds of things we're talking about, right? But they go, they were literally saying, don't come here. It'll turn you into who you don't want to be. Just look at me. Wow. And we're just trying to make it to retirement. And it's like, what on earth are we here for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a red flag.
It was like, whoa, duh.
All right. So before you send another application or rage quit your job, we just recommend you step back. The real leverage isn't in the next job. It's in the man that you bring into it. It's not the position or the title or the salary or the benefits or, the manager you're working for. It's in who you are and who you are to become. Once you get really clear on that, then everything else can start to fall into place. And it's easy to evaluate whether this is in line with my story or whether this is, the wrong path.
I just thought of this. So I've written a book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. It's on Amazon, shameless plug. And in it, there's the whole beginning part is a deeper dive than this little handout we've got for you, this 10-minute exercise, but it's all getting into your passions and things like that. And literally people have discovered, oh, I'm going to go do this instead of what I thought. They've changed majors in college. And so all I'm simply saying is knowing who you are. Oh my gosh, it just begins to bring such clarity to the direction you need to be going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think whether it's this 10-minute exercise that we have for you or like you're saying, George, your book, both of those things bring you just kind of out of the weeds, right? Of like the day-to-day living in the job and the urge to try to solve the pain with a new job, a new position, a new city, whatever, a new girlfriend, new church, whatever it is. The urge to solve the pain with something new, it just lifts you up out of that. And it brings you into this higher place. You're moving with a focused direction of actually aligning who you are to what you're doing. And in my experience, that's where deep fulfillment is found. And you find yourself making a huge impact for good.
Okay, guys. So AJ, Garrett, what do we do now?
I think it's clear. We got to look at the pattern. Guys my age, we're changing jobs every year or two, and the restlessness is still there. The anxiety is still there. The inadequacy is still there. So changing externals hasn't fixed anything. Maybe it's time for us all to look internal and discover who we are meant to be and then live into that rather than thinking, what does the world want? Or what can I do in this world?
Yeah, I really agree with that, AJ. I think it's, it's not that you need a different job. You need a different man walking into that job. And that's not something you can just like white knuckle your way into. That's where we turn to God and take the power back from our bosses to tell us who we are and give that power to God, our creator, to tell us who we are and really become a different man walking in to the job that we do.
Yeah. And I can't emphasize enough, what I do versus who I am. If you get some clarity on that, just this 10-minute exercise just to separate your job from your identity, the relief you are going to experience from that is going to be worth 10 minutes. I promise you. And until next time, may you live truly free.